Namaste and welcome. It's Rishi here from meditatewithrishi.com, and today we are going to be exploring what are the different types of mantras that you can use in meditation. So if you're a beginner, or even if you've been practicing and you still wonder, what mantra is right for me, or what are the different types of mantras, this is for you, okay? Now, what I'm also going to do is give you some best practice as to what to avoid, because the science of mantras is very vast and complex, and what's happening right now is a lot of, I hate to say this, okay, but what's happening is that a lot of people are going to India and learning about, yoga, meditation, mantras, and without fully understanding the depth of the subject, are coming back and presenting this information to people, which can be dangerous because mantras are capsules of energy, and used in the wrong way, they can be very dangerous. Okay, so I want to give you some good practice, give you some clarity on what you can do, what you can't do, what to avoid. Okay, so let's get to it. Now, the first place to start is, before looking at types of mantras, it's good to understand what is a mantra. Okay. So the Sanskrit definition of a mantra is mananat trayate iti mantraha, which means through the constant repetition of which one becomes protected. Okay, so through the constant repetition of the mantra, one is protected. Protected from what? Right? So ultimately, the goal of meditation is realizing our true self, realizing our oneness with the universe, okay? And when this happens, we become a liberated soul. And a liberated soul, it is said, does not have to come back in the cycle of birth and rebirth and birth and death. So you are liberated from coming back into samsara, from coming back into the cycle, and you live, ever blissfully, ultimately. But the mantra also protects us while we are here. Okay, and it does that by protecting the mind, because the mantra is something that we are constantly repeating, and it becomes a centering place for the mind. So usually, we have the mind wanders, goes into different thought patterns, quite often negative thought patterns, and this is not good, right? So a lot of mental health issues, a lot of depression, all this can be eliminated through the repetition of mantra, because anytime the mind starts to wander and go into different directions, negative thought patterns, simply bring it back to the mantra. And the more you do this, the stronger the mind becomes, the more centered it becomes, the more focused it becomes. And that means that you have a lot of mental strength, peace, tranquility, which is a great way to live ultimately, right? So that is a mantra in a nutshell. Now let's get into what are the different types of mantras. So obviously what I'm speaking about here are mantras from the Vedic tradition, okay? But hopefully this will give you an idea of, if you come from another tradition, it will give you an idea of, that's interesting, maybe this is how this applies to what I'm doing. So ultimately I'm hoping this will give you some more clarity, okay? So the three types of mantras are Saguna mantra, Nirguna mantra, and Bija mantra, okay? So before we get into this, I want you to understand just one thing, that when you're choosing a mantra, when you're choosing a type of meditation practice, a really good question to ask yourself is, how do I perceive divinity? Okay, because ultimately in meditation, what we're trying to do is we are trying to get to the source of what is within us, our true self. We're trying to get into the source of creation, ultimately, okay? But in different traditions, there's very many different beliefs, and it is important to understand, in the way that you've been brought up, what is your belief, because that will really help you pick a technique or a practice for meditation, including picking a mantra, okay? So let's get into it. The first example is, or the first type, sorry, is mantras that are Saguna. Now Saguna simply means God with form. Okay? So if you come from a tradition where, there is the idea of God with form, right? So the deities in Hinduism, like Rama, Krishna, Lakshmi, Hanuman, or, Jesus Christ, right? So God is an entity that is essentially external, outside of you, and he has a form, or the form could be a sound as well, okay? So this type of belief system, right, the type of mantra you would go for is a Savana mantra, because the mantras here relate to God with form, okay? So for example, if you like Ram, one mantra is Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. If you like Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya. If you like Krishna, there is the Hare Krishna mantra. Every deity has their own mantra, right? I've listed some of them over here. But ultimately, the point is that if you've grown up with the belief that, God has a form, God is something external from me, then these are great mantras because it's already ingrained in your belief system. So it's going to be much easier for you to like and focus on this type of mantra, right? So, and this is just an extension of this is Nama mantras, which is simply reciting the name of God, right? So whether you're saying Ram or Krishna or Allah or Jesus or whatever it may be, just the name of the divine is a mantra in itself. So you don't even need to get into, if you find this too complicated, you don't even need to get into that. You can just say the name, mentally repeating the name, doing the japa of the name is a practice, is a meditation practice, and in my opinion, one of the most powerful ones, because it is simple and it is easy and anybody can do it. You don't need a guru, you don't need any teachings, you just chant the name. Very simple, okay? So that's the first aspect. I hope that makes sense. The Saguna, or God with form, okay? The next one is Nirguna. Nirguna means when you perceive divinity as being formless or without form, okay? So here, you may have the idea that divinity is the universe ultimately, and the universe is made up of energy or different energy patterns, right? Or you may have the idea, from Vedanta that ultimately there is only one self, right? There is only one universal self, and I am a part of that self. I am that self, ultimately, okay? So this is essentially more of a non-dual viewpoint, where you're saying that, God is not something outside of me, but actually, divinity is my very essence, and I am it. I am divinity, right? So just bear in mind that these two, whether you perceive God as outside you or as, within you, as you, it doesn't matter, because, both are true from different perspectives. The point is that when you do the practice and actually realize your true nature, it is said that these philosophies don't matter, because there it's all the same. The philosophies are only for us, mere humans, trying to comprehend what it's all about ultimately, okay? So mantras here are more universal mantras, which anybody would like to use. One is Om, okay? Om is the sound of the universe, the sound that created the universe. So ultimately, by chanting Om, you are going back to the source of creation. The other one is Soham, which means I am. So Soham, I am, which is basically saying I am divinity, I am the universe, okay? And Soham is actually the natural sound of your breath. So if you just listen to the sound of your breath, you notice that the sound that it makes going in is so, the sound that it makes coming out is hum. So it is a very natural, a very universal and effortless way of practicing meditation. Just listening to the breath, listening to the breath. So it's said that this Soham is already happening within you every time you breathe. It's just that you are not aware of it. And just becoming aware of it is a practice of meditation, which is beautiful, so powerful, right? And then you've got other mantras like, Aham Brahmasmi, which means I am Brahman. And Brahman here is relating to the ultimate reality, the ultimate, totality. And then you have Tattvam Asi, which is that thou art, which is another way of saying, I am Brahman, right? It's you are that, ultimately. So these, again, it depends on what your beliefs are, what do you feel comfortable with? How do you perceive divinity? It doesn't have to be complicated, by the way. Just ask yourself, what is this universal energy for me? Do I view it as a deity that I like because I've grown up that way? Or do I view it as just the universe and the energy that is creating everything, and the same thing that is within me, giving me life, right? Just ask yourself this question, and it shouldn't be that difficult, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Now, these two, the Saguna and the Nirguna, are the ones that you should be focusing on. You're completely free to use these, okay, without any teaching, without the grace of a guru or anything like that. You can pick these up and simply start doing them, okay? Because they are harmless, they are very natural, they're very universal, okay? So you're free to use these, and this is what I would essentially encourage you to go and study deeper on or pick from. So you don't have to pick one of these, right? It could be something from your own tradition. So for example, this Soham is, the verse in the Bible, I am that I am. Exactly the same thing, right? So you'll find, versions of this in the tradition that you come from. Okay, so you can pick from here, or you can pick from your own tradition. I'm just giving you an idea of how do you perceive divinity and what options do you have ultimately. Okay. Now we come to number 3, which is the Bija mantras, and the Bija mantras are, Bija means seed, okay? So these seed mantras are essentially what I want to tell you to avoid, okay? So let me explain to you why. So these are a few examples like Hrim, Shrim, Klim, Aim, Hum, okay? These are, one word, which is a mantra, but it is essentially, it's a seed, right? So just like you can plant a seed and a tree can emerge from it, these seeds ultimately are seeds of explosive energy, okay? So, sound is frequency. Repetition of sound can create a frequency within you, and ultimately these frequencies are different frequencies of the universe that your body or your system is not used to ultimately, okay? Now, I'm not an expert on this, I do not claim to be, but one thing that I do know is that if they are practiced just like that, getting them out of a book, it can be very dangerous because you have no idea what you're doing, and it can cause a lot of energy imbalances, mental imbalances. There's so many stories of people, being put in a mental hospital because of incorrectly using mantras like this, okay? So the reason I'm speaking about this today is it doesn't take a lot, just type in mantras, for meditation, and there's a whole host of websites saying that, this mantra gives you wealth, this mantra gives you this mantra gives you that, and just giving them, like kids in a candy shop, just giving people a selection, use this and you'll get this, and it does not work like that. Mantra science is very, very complex, very vast, and it's a subject on its own, right? So the only people that can use these mantras are those that are working with a guru or a master, essentially, who has practiced one of these mantras and gained mastery on its energy. That is the only person who knows how to work with this seed syllable and show you how to do it. And chances are that if you have a group like that, if you're working with somebody like that, you will not be watching this video. So if you're watching this video, just avoid them altogether. stick to what is simple, stick to what has worked for millennia. And I just want to finish by saying that, no mantra is better than the other, okay? There's nothing like that. No mantra is better than the other. All mantras are equal. What matters is that you practice with faith, with devotion, with belief in that mantra, and ultimately that will take you, to the goal. That is pretty much it. So I hope this gave you clarity at the very least. If you have any questions, comment below and I'd love to answer them. But apart from that, that is pretty much it. So thank you for listening. And I just want to put this out there in case you haven't come across it yet. If you're new to meditation, or if you are interested in how meditation can transform your life, I've created something called the 10 side effects of meditation. It's a free guide, but it gives you an in-depth look at how meditation transforms your personality and your actual life beyond feeling calm and relaxed and stress-free, which is just, byproducts of meditation, not benefits. So you can pick that up for free at meditatewithrishi.com. Thank you for listening. Namaste.